right, welcome into another One Piece discussion video. Today, we are here to talk about the Gorosei, because just like everyone on Twitter, their forms got leaked. We now know what they look like. But here's the thing, we do not have the full spoilers just yet, so we only have the generalized appearances given to us by Pewpiece over on Twitter. So here's the thing. Pewpiece did say that all of these forms do look like yokai transformations more or less, and that all of these dudes do indeed have the awakened black flame clouds, which is really freaking cool. So we're just gonna go down the list, talk a little bit about them, and then we will go through a couple of yokai that I pulled up here on the side and just kind of speculate as to what these guys could be before the chapter actually comes out. Of course, we don't know if these guys are 100% yokai or if they are based off of some other mythology, but since Saturn is a yokai, and since Pewpiece seems to be alluding to them being yokai, that is what we're going to go off of. So first up, we have Marcus Mars, who ended up being a giant bird, which I would argue is something a lot of people have guessed, right? Marcus Mars and Warcudi are the easiest ones to predict, because Warcudi in this chapter is revealed to be a giant boar, which makes sense, right? You look at these silhouettes and you're like, okay, bird, boar, cool. But here's where it gets weird. Because when it comes to Jupiter and V Nasujudo, a lot of people were kind of speculating as to what they could be, and honestly, I haven't heard anyone guess their transformations correctly. You know, I've been online, I read the comments, and nobody has ever said, Sai, I think V Nasujudo is a horse. I think Jupiter is a giant worm. Nope, I have not heard that. See, I was on the boat that V Nasujudo could be some sort of praying mantis. I thought he could even be like an alien to some extent, because let's be real, what is this silhouette, Oda? What is this thing right here? I have no clue. And then when it came to Jupiter, right, he kind of looked like a slime. I was kind of guessing he could be like Umibozu, like a water creature, some gelatinous being, but no, this is actually just the design of a giant worm, which I can actually see, right? At least the worm one fits up 1-to-1, whereas V Nasujudo, I still don't see a horse. Like, I've tried to contort his figure into a horse every single way. It just doesn't fit, man. So I'm really curious to see their designs when the chapter comes out. But yeah, that is what we are working with. So I have went on yokai.com, which is normally where people go when they want to look for yokai. It is kind of like a fan site, but it is pretty well documented. And I looked up what these guys could be based off of their general descriptions. And I do want to just go down them and just talk a little bit about them. And you could see this as pointless. And I do agree, you know, like when we get to the chapter, anything could be possible. But here's the thing. When we learned that Saturn was the Ushi Oni, that week, people were going through Ushi Oni lore, seeing what he could do. And we come to find out that his abilities somewhat do line up, right? The Ushi Oni is known for staring at people, you know, putting them in a trance, exploding them, killing them. And then Saturn has pretty much all those abilities. So I do think there is some merit to going through the yokai list and just having a little bit of fun with it. And that is what we're here to do. So on to the yokais. So this right here is the first one I found, and we're gonna start with the horses first. So we have Mumashika, which is a horse, deer, human creature thing. This is one of the options I found for Venus. And, you know, to be fair, there's not a lot of horse yokai out there. This was just like one of the few. And I thought this was an interesting design, mainly because he's standing up on 2 feet, which might not seem like a big thing to many people, but we do have to remember that Venus is a swordsman. He carries a sword around, so I would like to imagine he's able to wield his sword in his Zoan hybrid form. So I do like the idea of Venus being able to stand like this. Of course, keep in mind, while we look at these silly pictures, that Oda's definitely going to change them a lot, right? Because let me just go over to the Ushi Oni for a second. Yeah, so right here is the Ushi Oni. This is what Saturn is most likely based off of. And let me tell you right now, Saturn looks way better than the Ushi Oni portrait. So keep that in mind as we're going through these yokai. While this does look goofy, imagine it in the world of One Piece. So as far as the description of this guy goes, we're just going to read a little bit about him because I don't want to go through the whole thing. That would take forever. But main thing about their appearance is that they wear loose and billowing clothes and wave their hooves in the air with playful silliness, which does fall in line with Sun God Nika and how he is very comical. But as far as loose and billowing clothes, I do think this falls in line with the silhouette we had of V Nasujuro back in Marie's Raw, because they had this like weird like cloak around them, which could be the flame clouds. But if it is the billowing clothing, then I think that could make a lot of sense. In their description, it says that perhaps they are spirits which possess people and cause them to behave foolishly. Or perhaps they are intended to be a cartoonish representation of the concept of foolishness. Yeah, I think this could fit a little bit. I don't know. It's such an interesting one, just looking at him. I do like that he has one eye in the picture and Zoro has one eye, but of course, if you go to the silhouette, you can see that Venus has both eyes attached, so I don't think this could be it, but I do think this is a pretty fun one. Another one I found that could be related to Venus in some extent could be the Mezuki, which is a horse demon out of hell, which I think, hey, horse demon out of hell, Zoro the King of Hell, I think this could be a pretty fire matchup. And this one is a more well-known yokai as well. So let's see here. In Japanese Buddhism, Gozu and Mezu are the demon generals who guard the gates of hell. They appear as terrible Oni with animal heads. Wait, Oni? Whoa. Onigashima 2.0. They have an ox head for Gozu and a horse head for Mezu. They're extremely powerful and have the strength to move mountains. They are servants of the great King Enma, the ruler of hell. Wait a minute. Mezu? Wait a minute. This could be pretty solid. Wait, I'm no joke. I have not read this yet. I just pulled up a couple of ones that I thought were cool. And yo, right here, great King Enma, ruler of hell, associated with Mezu. And he's the horse. I don't know. Let's look at the origins real quick. Though Gozu and Mezu are the most famous and most commonly depicted in story and art, they are not the only animal-headed demon generals in Great King Enma's employ. Because there's a deer, a tiger, a lion, boar-headed demons who also serve in the upper ranks. And yeah, okay, it looks like they just talk about like Enma and who serves them right here. Let's see. Gozu and Mezu are the first demons that one encounters upon entering hell. Should a person manage to escape from hell, Gozu and Mezu are sent out to bring them back. I don't want to get into like some crazy fan fiction territory, but technically Zoro did escape death, right? He saw the Grim Reaper. Dude's still alive. So hey, maybe this is a little bit of setup. So some mythology setup from Oda. But yeah, actually, I'm leaning towards Mezu. No joke, I kind of was leaning towards Mumashika here, but now that I read Mezu's description, I feel like V Nasujuro could be Mezu, but of course, Oda-fied, right? Oda likes to toy with the designs a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised if this guy looks pretty insane when we see him in the upcoming chapter. So now, Jupiter, there's not a lot of worm yokai out there, and all I could find was the Nozuchi, which kind of does look like a worm, sort of. I'm not super sure, and it's even considered a snake, so I don't know if this actually fits in well, but like I said, this is the only thing I could actually find on the website. So we have the Nozuchi, which, based off of what it says here, whoa, it has a lot actually, whoa. Nozuchi are one of the earliest recorded yokai in Japan. They're powerful, ancient, snake-like spirits of the fields, known for their bizarre shape and habits. Wait, fields? I think that's kind of interesting that they mention fields here, considering that Jupiter is the god of agriculture. So they're short, fat creatures shaped like mallets. Nozuchi are about 15 centimeters in diameter and just over 1 meter long, which of course in One Piece they can change that a lot. They have no eyes, nose, or any other facial features save for a large mouth located at the top of their head that points at the sky. And they look like a hairy caterpillar. Okay. As far as interactions go, Nozuchi have been known to attack humans who come near their nests, rolling downhill and snapping at their feet. Their bites are dangerous, resulting in terrible, mangled wounds, which quickly lead to high fever and death. A person who is touched or even merely seen by a tumbling Nozuchi can contract this fever and die. Fortunately, Nozuchi attacks are easily avoided. Stick to higher ground where they cannot tumble or climb a tree, if no other high ground is available. Yeah, I think this one is somewhat plausible. Like I said, there's not a lot of worm yokai out there. This is really all we have to pick out of. If you guys have some worm yokai in your list, let me know down below. But yeah, Nozuchi is pretty solid. I just like the fact that it does have some correlation to agriculture. I do like the illness factor of it, mainly because that's something we saw that Saint Saturn was able to do, right? He created the sapphire scale disease, more or less. So having Jupiter associated with another illness just kind of falls in line with the Gorosei at this point. So yeah, Nozuchi for Jupiter, I think is pretty okay. So next up, let's talk about Warkuri, who is the giant wild boar yokai. To be honest, not a lot of boar in yokai as well. It's another hard-pressed category. But I did pull up the Kudan. It's not exactly a boar. It's a human cow, but it was under the boar category, so I went with him. But to be fair, there are a lot of interpretations to how the Kudan actually looks. Like we have this one right here. If you just kind of Google images, like there's a lot of different Kudans we could pull from. So it doesn't have to look like this per se, because this is just kind of scary, really. I mean, I don't know what's going on here. It got like a boar body and a human face. So I just skim read through this real quick on the side, and there's a couple of things that really stood out to me. And you can pause the video and read it yourself if you want to as well. But the main things that stood out is that the Kudan is rumored to have some sort of fortune-telling ability. And not just that, but apparently, they're able to predict the end of wars and who will be the victor of those wars, which I think is quite notable considering his name is Warkuri, which is a play on words for Mercury. And not to mention, but he is the warrior god of justice. I feel like this could tie in pretty well, to be honest. So because of their uncanny ability to predict the future, the word of a Kudan was viewed as absolute truth, or absolute justice if you want to spin that. And during the Edo period, newspapers looking to add credibility to a story would include the words Kudan no Gotoshi, or as if a Kudan had said it, to those articles. This phrase remains in use in the Japanese language today as a way of assuring the reader of the truth of a story. Hey, sounds solid to me. You know, and here's the thing. We can't get too, like I said before, we can't get too caught up in what this image looks like, because let's be real. You know, going back to the Ushi Oni comparison, we had the Ushi Oni, and then we have Saturn. Oda's gonna make this thing look good. So if he is a Kudan, I have high hopes for him, and I do think this fits in pretty well as well. So now, on to the last of the Gorosei members we get revealed to, Marcus Mars. So the one I pulled up right here for Marcus Mars is the Itsumade. So just reading through a little bit about what the Itsumade is all about, they are described as strange birds, and they have the face of a human with pointed beaks, and the body of a snake with wings and terrible claws. Itsumade appear in the night sky during times of trouble such as plagues and disasters, or flying over battlefields where many have died. In particular, they fly over places where there is suffering or death, yet little has been done to alleviate the pain of living or pacify the spirits of the dead. So yeah, they kind of feed on the souls of the dead. I mean, not like I'm gonna draw matchups from this, but hey, Brook could be a solid one, and Usopp could also be pretty solid for this one as well. And the reason I bring in Usopp is because apparently, according to the yokai lore, he died due to an archer. So somebody shot this bird out of the sky. So in that regard, I do think he could be pretty cool. Another one I kind of pulled up here as well is the Yama Orabi, which, like, again, I just kind of picked him up because of the wings. I looked at these wings, I'm like, hey, it's kind of one-to-one. I could see it. So just kind of quickly going over this one. Yama Orabi are small tree-dwelling yokai native to Kyushu in Shikoku. They resemble birds with oversized heads and mounds of sharp, pointy teeth, and they are excellent mimics. Yama Orabi are usually only encountered deep in the mountain. They will shout back any word that is shouted at them. Anyone foolish enough to engage Yama Orabi in a shouting match will soon die. Superstition holds that this death curse can be removed by ringing a cracked bell. And the thing with the cracked bell, so this is cracked actually. So the thing with the cracked bell in Marcus Mars is that a lot of people have said that Marcus Mars looks like Gonfall from Skypiea. And if you remember, one of the main things about Skypiea is that there is a golden cracked bell there. So actually, you know what? I was feeling good about the Itsumade, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's actually the Yama Orabi, and maybe the fact that it looks like Gonfall is not a coincidence after all. So yeah, those are my guesses for who the Gorosei are based off of. I have Yama Orabi for Marcus Mars. I have Kudon for Warkuri. I have the Nezuchi for Jupiter, and then I have the Mezuki for the Nasujuro. Of course, these can all be completely wrong by tomorrow, right? When we get the full spoilers, we could all point and laugh at me. But with that being said, I would love to hear who are your guesses for who the Gorosei are based off of. Do you think they're all yokai? Do you think they're different mythologies, which would be okay too? Let me know all your thoughts down below. And now the last thing I want to leave off on is the Giants, because the Giants are fighting these guys. In the chapter, Luffy is fighting the Gorosei, but at the very end, apparently the Giants step in to stop the fight. You know, they come in, they stop the Gorosei's attack. I'm not too sure what the context is, but Dory and Bragi show up here, and apparently they put in some work. I can't believe it. I've said it before, but if you go back 20 years into the past and you told a young me that Dory and Brogy from Little Garden would step up against the world's strongest Gorosei, not the right title, I wouldn't believe you. You know, flat up, Dory Brogy versus the Gorosei, wouldn't believe you. And here's the thing too, they don't mention which giants show up, they just say giants show up. So there's a chance that Oimo, that Kashi are here. You know, if Oimo and Kashi, the two giants from Enies Lobby, show up and fight the Gorosei, I'm gonna be at a loss of words. I don't know. I mean, giants are getting all the hype right now, love to see it, but you gotta admit, it's a little bit wacky. Like, hopefully they have some crazy power-up that justifies all of it. But if they step in here, and if they start messing up the Gorosei, I'm gonna be face-palming. You know, Luffy beating the Gorosei, I am cool with that, right? Luffy, he's that guy. He has beaten Kizaru, he has beaten Saturn, sort of, you know, if you don't count the regeneration aspect. Like, Luffy is doing really well in the fight. But that makes sense. Dory, Brogy, Oimo, and Kashi, I don't know. I gotta see it. But hey, with that being said, let me know all your thoughts down below. Do you agree with any of these guesses right here? Do you have your own guesses? I would love to hear it. And I'll catch you guys when the full spoilers drop. My name is Sai, and I'm signing out. Peace.